Hello everyone. Welcome back to Whodunit, the channel, where we dive deep into the most chilling true crime cases. Today, let's begin uncovering the heartbreaking and mysterious events surrounding a beautiful young woman from Arizona. Mercedes Vega, 22 years old, a young woman full of life in Tempe, Arizona. She carried big dreams to open her own gym, to live a life as free as the waves of Hawaii she always longed for. On that evening, April 16th, 2023, Mercedes left her apartment at the Aubrey complex. Surveillance cameras captured her final moments, walking with quiet confidence toward her car, her posture calm and ordinary. No one could have imagined it would be the last time she was seen alive. Just hours later, her car was found abandoned near a trendy spot called Culinary Dropout in Tempe. Inside, there were traces of blood, the keys still left in the ignition, as if everything had been interrupted in a moment of panic. Around the same time, along Interstate 10, more than 60 miles away, a passerby called 911 to report a burning Chevrolet Malibu in the desert. When the flames were finally put out, the charred body of a young woman was discovered in the back seat. That young woman was Mercedes. From a normal evening in the safety of her apartment building to a horrific death in the barren desert, just a few hours apart. The chilling question echoes, who brought her there? Why would a 22-year-old woman with so much life and so many dreams become the target of such ruthless violence? This story is not just about a murder. It is about betrayal, about justice under siege, and about the darkness humans will unleash when they want to silence a witness forever. Mercedes Vega was born on March 10, 2001, in Anchorage, Alaska. From a young age, she carried a natural spark, bright eyes, an easy smile, and a heart that radiated kindness. She loved horses, adored children, and found joy in the simplest of things. When her mother Erica began a relationship with Tom Pillsbury in 2007, Mercedes was only 6 years old. Yet she quickly grew close to him, embracing Tom as a true father figure. In 2010, just before Erica and Tom's wedding, Mercedes gave him a Father's Day card. In it she wrote, "I love that you're marrying my mom." Tom kept it ever since, a reminder of how love had shaped their family beyond blood. Encouraged in every way, Mercedes flourished. She learned to play the violin, and her singing voice was so beautiful that she was invited to perform the national anthem at sports games and public events. In the water, she was a gifted swimmer. She once told her family, "My soul belongs in Hawaii." The ocean became her symbol of freedom, of living untethered to fear. At school, she excelled effortlessly, earning straight A's. Friends remembered her as both intelligent and playful, a prankster with a laugh that lit up every room. When the family later moved to Arizona, settling in Santan Valley, Erica often described her daughter as articulate, funny, and capable of lifting the weight off anyone's shoulders just by being herself. By her early 20s, Mercedes was ready to live independently. She moved into the Aubrey apartments in Tempe. To pay her bills and save toward her future, she worked a few nights a week as an exotic dancer at a Phoenix club. To her, it was never the end goal, but a means to build her dream one day, opening her own gym and becoming a personal trainer, helping others grow stronger, not only in body, but in spirit. But her life was not untouched by darkness. In October 2020, Mercedes was ambushed outside her Phoenix apartment at gunpoint. The robber, later identified as Kajo Young, stole cash and valuables, leaving her traumatized. The incident shook her so deeply that she left Phoenix for Tempe to start fresh. Yet instead of allowing fear to consume her, Mercedes chose resilience. She cooperated with police, picked Young out of a lineup, and even submitted a victim's impact statement, describing the emotional toll. It was a defining moment. Mercedes refused to be just another silent victim. She was determined to seek justice to hold the man who hurt her accountable. But courage has its cost. As the robbery case dragged on with 18 delays, often due to attorney changes, her name remained tied to Young. And by April 2023, Mercedes was set to testify against him in court. The date of her appearance, April 17th, just one day after her disappearance. Looking back, her story is filled with a cruel paradox. Mercedes wanted nothing more than to build a life of freedom, of laughter, of purpose. She did not let past trauma define her. She rose above it. But the very bravery that gave her strength also painted a target on her back. By daring to stand up against crime, she unknowingly stepped into a shadow that had been waiting for years to consume her. On the afternoon of April 16th, 2023, Mercedes Vega had simple plans. She was supposed to meet friends for dinner. Nothing unusual, nothing out of place. But at the last minute, she changed her mind. Instead of heading to dinner, she sent a quick update. She would go to work at the club in Phoenix. That message, ordinary as it seemed, would later stand as the final sign of her life as it was. At the Aubrey Apartments parking garage, surveillance cameras caught details that would become chilling in hindsight. At about 8:45 p.m., a white 2018 Chevrolet Malibu, a car not registered to any resident, rolled quietly into the garage. It lingered there, waiting like a predator, lying in the dark. At about 9:15 p.m., Mercedes entered the frame. She walked with purpose, her steps confident, unaware of the danger coiled in the shadows. For her, it was just another night, walking to her car. For the people watching the footage later, it was the last glimpse of her alive. When investigators searched later, they found bloodstains in her assigned parking space, along with smears inside the front passenger seat of her car. Something violent had happened, sudden and terrifying. By 9:25 p.m., another camera recorded Mercedes's car pulling into a nearby lot by Culinary Dropout, a popular restaurant. The car was parked awkwardly in violation of local rules, the keys still in the ignition. The detail screamed haste, abandonment. And just as her car was left behind, the Malibu pulled away into the night. In the early hours of April 17th, nearly 60 miles west of Tempe, a driver on Interstate 10 noticed an orange glow against the desert horizon. A car was on fire near mile marker 85, veered into a ditch. The driver called 911. His voice hurried. "There's a car on fire. I think I saw someone outside of it." That detail would haunt investigators. Someone was still at the scene, and as the flames consumed the vehicle, fire crews arrived and fought the blaze. When the flames subsided, what they discovered left no doubt. In the back seat lay the charred body of a young woman. Around her, investigators documented items that pointed to design, not accident. 2 bottles of bleach, one partially used, a container of lighter fluid, latex gloves. These were not signs of a crash. They were signs of intention. The vehicle itself was identified as the same Malibu that had been lurking in Mercedes's garage only hours before. And the victim, through fingerprints, they confirmed it was Mercedes Vega. The question grew heavier. What happened in those missing hours between the moment Mercedes walked toward her car at 9:15 and the moment flames lit up the desert around midnight? The evidence told a story of control, of force, of a plan executed with cruel precision. The blood in the garage, the abandoned car with keys left behind, the witness who saw someone by the burning Malibu, all fragments of a puzzle with only one conclusion: Mercedes's death was not random. She had been chosen, targeted, and the plan had been set in motion long before the Malibu ever pulled into that garage. On April 17th, 2023. After the burned Chevrolet Malibu was examined, the victim's identity was confirmed. It was Mercedes Vega, a 22-year-old woman, once full of dreams, now reduced to a case number on a coroner's report. But inside that report lay tales so brutal, they shook even seasoned investigators. It wasn't until October of 2023 that the Maricopa County Medical Examiner released the official autopsy. The report revealed layers of violence. Mercedes had been shot once in the arm, evidence that she may have tried to shield herself or fight back. Her head carried multiple wounds from blunt force trauma, inflicted with calculated rage and precision. Her body bore chemical burns. Bleach had been poured directly onto her face, into her mouth, and down her throat, an attempt to harass, to mutilate, and to silence. And the most horrifying discovery: she was still alive when the fire began. The cause of death was listed as smoke inhalation and thermal injuries. It was not just murder. It was torture, step by step. Inside the Malibu, investigators documented 2 bottles of bleach, one already used. A container of lighter fluid sat nearby. Latex gloves were left behind. These items painted a portrait of Whodunit. This was not a frantic act of passion. It was a deliberate execution, premeditated and systematic. That evening, back in Suntan Valley, Erica and Tom Pillsbury had just returned from a Caribbean vacation. When officers came to their door, Erica kept asking the same desperate question: "Is my daughter okay?" The silence before the truth felt like an eternity. Then came the words that tore through her soul: "Mercedes is dead." Erica later described it as if her very spirit had been ripped out of her body. Tom stood silent, unable to process the magnitude of the loss. From the forensic record, a chilling psychological profile emerged. The killer did not simply want Mercedes dead. They wanted her silenced, erased, destroyed. Each act: the bullet, the beating, the bleach, and finally the fire was a layer of cruelty. A ritual of obliteration. It was more than killing. It was an attempt to erase her not only from life, but from evidence, from memory, from justice itself. And yet, despite the mountain of evidence, the investigation dragged. Erica and Tom grew frustrated. To them, the system seemed sluggish, even dismissive. Tom later voiced what many suspected: because Mercedes worked as a dancer at a Phoenix club, authorities did not treat her case with urgency. "It's like my daughter doesn't matter to them," he said. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office denied this, insisting all victims were treated equally. But months of silence weighed heavily, making grief even sharper. The forensic discoveries did more than reveal cruelty. They became a grim reminder of systemic failure. Justice delayed is justice denied. Mercedes was not only the victim of violent men, she was also a victim of the indifference of a justice system, too slow to shield her when she needed it most. Her body told the truth her killers wanted erased. And while fire consumed her final moments, the evidence survived, leaving behind a trail that pointed clearly. This was not random. It was calculated, and the shadow behind it was not finished yet. The brutality of Mercedes's murder made one thing clear: this was not random. It was not impulsive. Someone had wanted her gone, silenced forever. And as investigators dug deeper, the answer began to emerge from her past. Back in October of 2020, Mercedes had been robbed at gunpoint outside her Phoenix apartment. The man who pointed a weapon at her and took her belongings was Ka-Jo Young. She had bravely identified him in a lineup and given a victim impact statement. The robbery case dragged on through 18 delays, often due to his constant attorney changes. And fate twisted cruelly. The trial, where Mercedes was scheduled to testify, was set for April 17, 2023, the very day after she disappeared. The motive became glaring: silence, the witness. But Young had not acted alone. Records showed he used his credit card to purchase airline tickets for two men traveling from Tennessee to Arizona. They arrived on March 3, 2023, and left on April 18, one day after Mercedes's body was found. Sincere Patrick Hayes, 22 years old, from Chattanooga, Tennessee, was the first to fall. In November 2024, while already in custody on unrelated charges in Hamilton County, his fingerprint was matched to a bloody plastic grocery bag recovered from Mercedes's abandoned car. In court, he admitted being in Arizona but claimed it was for business. His connection to Young, however, became undeniable. Jared DeMarcus Gray, 25 years old, was arrested in June 2025 in Catoosa County, Georgia. His fingerprint was lifted from a plastic cup found inside of the burned Malibu. Initially, Gray denied even knowing Hayes or Young, but travel records revealed the truth. Gray and Hayes had flown together to Phoenix in March, then returned by Greyhound bus. On April 18th, the day after the fire, Kadjo Young, 29 years old, the very man Mercedes had identified in 2020, was indicted in July 2025. Prosecutors argued that he orchestrated everything, paying for Hayes and Gray's flights, arranging for the Malibu under a false name, and even calling an associate to retrieve a package near the burn site. It was not only revenge, it was witness elimination calculated step by step. Each man pled not guilty, but the evidence told a darker story. Hayes faced charges of first-degree murder, kidnapping, armed robbery, theft of transportation, arson of an occupied structure, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and hindering prosecution. Prosecutors announced they would seek the death penalty, citing the cruelty of the crime and the intent to obstruct justice. Gray's defense tried to argue that the forensic evidence could have been contaminated, emphasizing his lack of prior serious convictions. His lawyers painted him as someone who had simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Young stunned the courtroom by announcing he would represent himself. When warned by the judge that he would be held to the same standards as an attorney, he calmly replied, "Yes, sir." It was the move of a man who believed he could outmaneuver the system. Throughout it all, Erica and Tom Pillsbury sat in the court phase, worn with grief, yet unshaken in presence. For them, every hearing was both torture and duty. Tom once admitted, "The death penalty brings some relief. It feels like we are not fighting alone." Still, nothing could fill the empty space Mercedes left behind. The evidence, the timeline, the arrests, all of it, revealed a truth more chilling than a single act of violence. This was a criminal conspiracy orchestrated across states, funded and planned with cold precision. It was not only about killing a young woman. It was about silencing a witness, erasing a voice, and declaring war on justice itself. Mercedes was not in the wrong place at the wrong time. She was targeted. And the plan to kill her had been written years earlier, waiting only for the night it would be carried out. Mercedes Vega was murdered in a way that stripped her not only of life, but of dignity. Yet the tragedy did not end in the desert flames. It continued to haunt those left behind, her parents, her loved ones, and even strangers who came to know her story. Her parents, Erica and Tom Pillsbury, chose to honor her spirit in the places that defined her. They scattered her ashes in Alaska, where she was born, and in Hawaii, the place she once said her soul belonged, to the ocean. Two landscapes, one marking her beginning, the other symbolizing her dream left unfinished. As the courts called the names Hayes, Gray, and Young, the Pillsbury family was always present. They sat through hearings carrying their grief like armor. But no sentence, no verdict could ever restore what was taken. Erica once confessed, "Justice may come, but the pain will never go away." Her words carried a weight heavier than any gavel, the reminder that a system too slow, too indifferent, had failed to protect her daughter. The case of Mercedes Vega is not just a murder. It is a mirror reflecting how fragile justice can be. When justice is delayed, crime finds the gap. When a witness dares to speak out, but is left unprotected, she becomes prey. Now one question lingers, haunting everyone who hears her story. Will the verdicts ahead truly deliver justice, or will they only attempt to patch a wound carved too deep? Mercedes once dreamed of building a gym, of helping others grow stronger. She once laughed freely, loved deeply, and believed in the future year. Her story proves that darkness can devour even the brightest souls. And yet by telling her story, we keep her light alive. If you wish to stand with the Pillsbury family and ensure that Mercedes is never forgotten, share her story. Because only when memory endures can justice truly survive.